If there was any kind of quid pro quo, one of the messages that this Russian advocate may have taken back to Moscow is the Trump administration would be very amenable to repealing the Magnitsky Act.
Adam Schiff, top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, back in July, was asked whether any sort of quid pro quo was on the table when the president's son and his campaign chairman and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, all met with a Kremlin-connected lawyer and a whole bunch of other Russians in Trump Tower last June. We know that Donald Trump Jr. thought that he would get dirt from the Russians on Hillary Clinton. But was there a trade-off? Was something on offer not just from the Russian side, but also from the Trump side in that meeting? What Congressman Schiff was pointing to there this past summer was a reasonable working theory that if Russia wanted anything from a future American White House, what they'd probably want would be sanctions relief. They'd want relief from the Magnitsky Act. The Magnitsky Act is a sanctions bill that targets Russia. President Obama signed it in 2012. Putin was so angry about the Magnitsky Act sanctions that he retaliated against the imposition of those sanctions by blocking Americans from adopting Russian orphans. I mean, if you're looking for something the Russians would have wanted in exchange for helping elect somebody in the United States, an end to that sanctions law would be a pretty good first guess. Well, what we've heard so far from Donald Trump Jr. is that as soon as the Magnitsky Act came up in that Trump Tower meeting, his side shut down the idea.
The pretext of the meeting was, hey, we have information, and there was, some small size, I don't even remember what it was. It just was sort of nonsensical, inane and garbled, and then quickly went on to, a story about Russian adoption and how we could possibly help, and really that's what we shut it down.
That's when we shut it down. Really, that's when we shut it down. Donald Jr. telling his favorite cable news host in the summer that they shut down that meeting as soon as the issue of Russian sanctions came up. Donald Jr. would later tell congressional investigators the same thing. He told them, quote, "Until that day, I'd never heard of the Magnitsky Act, had no familiarity with this issue. It was clear to me that her real purpose in asking for the meeting all along was to discuss Russian adoptions and the Magnitsky Act." At this point, Jared excused himself from the meeting to take a phone call. I proceeded to quickly and politely end the meeting by telling Ms. Veselnitskaya that because my father was a private citizen, there didn't seem to be any point to having this discussion. She thanked us for our time, and everyone left the conference room. My father is a private citizen. No point in further discussion. I'm not interested in this. End of story, end of meeting. Or not. Today, in an interview with Bloomberg News in Moscow, the Kremlin-linked lawyer from that Trump Tower meeting says that's not how it happened at all. The lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya, she tells Bloomberg News today that what Donald Jr. told her at the meeting was, quote, "Looking ahead, if we come to power, we can return to this issue and think what to do about it." In other words, hey, you give us whatever dirt you've got on Hillary Clinton now that we can use in the election, and then if we come to power, we can return to this sanctions issue for you. A lawyer for Don Jr. today said they have no comment about this new interview with Bloomberg News. Veselnitskaya made this claim today in an interview with two Bloomberg reporters. She said she would also tell the same story under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee. She said she's also ready, if asked, to tell the same story to Robert Mueller. Joining us now is Henry Meyer. He's a senior government reporter for Bloomberg News based in Moscow. He joins us from Paris this evening. Mr. Meyer, I know that you've stayed up to the dead of night to be with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Rachel.
I don't know whether or not to believe Ms. Veselnitskaya in her accounts about what happened at this meeting. I feel like she's told a lot of different stories about her interest in taking the meeting, her affiliations with the Russian government. How credible do you find this claim about the president's son?
Actually, I don't have any reason to disbelieve what she was saying. I mean, ultimately, is it in the Russians' interest to throw mud at the Trump administration? I think she came to us because she's under a lot of scrutiny right now. She's received a summons from the Senate Judicial Committee. They want evidence from her, and she felt this was an opportunity to come forward and put her version of what happened on that fateful day, June the 9th, 2016.
The thing that is very striking and potentially very legally dangerous about your reporting for Donald Trump Jr., if this account proves out, is that it does appear to have been, you're describing something that really sounds like an exchange. You're describing Donald Trump Jr. pressing her for financial information that might be damaging to Hillary Clinton's campaign, and essentially in exchange promising, if they come to power, if they win the election, to do something about her concerns. Does she describe this as something she understood to be a potential exchange being offered by Donald Trump Jr.?
Yes. I mean, she said that he intimated that the Trump administration, if President Trump came to power, that they would reconsider the law. And that was right after she discussed in detail her objections to this law. And then he went on, Trump Jr. went on to talk about the financial documents that he wanted to see, because Veselnitskaya came to that meeting with what the Russians call kompromat, dirt, on major donors, Democratic donors called the Ziff brothers, who had allegedly evaded U.S. taxes on about $1 billion of money, which investments in Russia, which they repatriated to the U.S. And when this was brought up, the response from Donald Trump Jr. was, okay, but show us the documents, right? Do you have proof that some of this $1 billion actually went to Hillary Clinton? And then when Veselnitskaya said, no, we don't, that's when the meeting was shut down.
Remarkable reporting. Henry Meyer, senior government reporter for Bloomberg News, based in Moscow, joining us tonight in the dead of night from Paris. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Anybody who stays up until 4 o'clock in the morning in Paris just to talk to us rather than to do something more fun than you can do at that hour in Paris gets extra thanks. I will say on this point of Veselnitskaya and whether or not she's credible here, I want to underscore that she is offering to tell this story to the United States Senate, to the Judiciary Committee, also offering to tell this story to the Special Counsel's Office. If that comes to pass, I have no idea whether to expect whether that might come to pass. All right, lots more to come tonight. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.